Okay, so welcome back to another edition of Build a Profitable Online Business. And today we're going to look at something which is really important, whatever market you're in. Now, different markets have different levels of competition, just like physical products, conventional markets do, offline. But whatever you're doing, it's really important that you stand out and that you're perceived by your customers and your future customers as being unique. There's nothing worse than blending into the background and just being seen as another marketer or another course creator or another expert, another consultant. There's just nothing worse than that, because then people can shop on price. And there's no real pull factor that you've got. You've lost your magnetism for people to come to you as opposed to go elsewhere. So what we're going to focus on today is some specific sort of practical stuff that you can do to really stand out, regardless of how high or how low the competition is in your market. That's the purpose of today. So let's go over to some presentational stuff here, and hopefully you should be able to see this. Let's have a look. How to stand out in a crowded market. Let me know if you can see that, if you're on live, please. And what we're going to do is have a quick flashback to session 14. Now, I don't expect you to remember, we've had quite a few sessions of this, but one thing we talked about in session 14 was that we did a very small case study. We use it as an example, and that was Joe Wicks, all right, the fitness guy. And we said this: Joe Wicks didn't invent anything, he just came up with new angles. And this is really not just me saying it, but he's effectively said that in interviews. You can find this online, and it's absolutely correct. What he's done is come up with a unique recipe. So just to recap what we talked about, he has rapid recipes, things that can be done quickly. He's against low-calorie diets and diet programs that just are about restriction of your calorie intake. His fitness stuff is very, well, I shouldn't say easy really, because it doesn't feel easy when you do it, I can tell you. But it's sort of straightforward, right? It's not complicated. It's simple. And you don't need any equipment or any gear at all, really. You can just do it anywhere. And the mindset that goes along with this, that kind of overlays everything, is ready to win the day. That's the successful mindset. Let's get stuff done. So these are kind of his main angles, as I see them, that he's brought together. These are the different ingredients that he's brought together to create his unique recipe. So that is the big takeaway from this session. If you remember nothing else, just remember that. You don't need to invent something that's brand new. People get really hung up about this with products, going, well, what have I got to offer, right? It's all, everyone's done it already. I can't think of anything new to add. Well, all you've got to do is change the recipe. Now, your ingredients can be the same, but create your own recipe, a unique recipe. So speaking of recipes, and obviously by that we mean in any market, right? Just the stuff that you put together to create your own formula. But let's actually look at some recipes here, some recipe books. Now, really, I think it's sold millions of copies. I have to check that. But this is superbly popular, is this. Jamie Oliver, 5 ingredients. Now, this guy has been around for a while, particularly in the UK. You probably know him, possibly, if you're in other countries. I'm not sure how big he is outside the UK. But he's had dozens, probably, of many different books that he's brought out over the years. But they've all got a unique angle, a unique hook. This one is 5 ingredients. It's so simple, isn't it? And this is the key to it as well, that sometimes the simpler you can be, the less complex, the more straightforward, the better. Because you can see somebody who's never seen this before, maybe never even heard of Jamie Oliver, 5 ingredients. Instantly, that's done all the marketing. It's done the heavy lifting, for you. You don't need a big sales page. People just see it. Oh, 5 ingredients. Oh, that'd be good for, cousin Susan. I'll go and buy it for her birthday. So this is the beauty. If you get this right and you come up with some good hooks, then you can turbocharge your sales. And you'll find if you do this right, you can just have a little, image of your product. We looked at Canva before, where you can create images for your products. And you can literally, that does so much of the selling for you, because people just see it, and they get it straight away, as opposed to a complicated, drawn-out product where you're trying to be different in subtle ways, and it takes people a long time to really understand that. Well, attention span is very short these days, obviously, including online. So you haven't got really... You're making things hard for yourself if you take that approach. Much better to come up with quick, simple, catchy titles. It's important that you don't, it's got to be useful and valuable. If it's not, then it becomes a gimmick. So you can't just come up with something because it sounds good, but it's actually useless, because people see through that. So it's actually got to have some substance behind it to really help the clients and the customers. That's the main thing. But if you can then summarize that in a very, very brief hook, it's brilliant. Now, recipe books are quite interesting because it's a good example of a market where hooks are have been done almost to death. But of course, they'll live on. There's always new ones coming out, right? There's always new recipe books that are going to the top of the charts and getting really popular. So it doesn't matter, and that will be, I'm sure, be the case in 10 years, in 20 years from now. So it never ends. But really, if you look around, almost everything's been done. So here's, for example, the idea of cooking meals in a certain time period, which is one type of hook that you can use, very effective. 30-minute cooking for two. That's combined two angles. One is the 30 minutes, the time limit, and the other is just for two people. So this is getting specific and speaking to a certain group of people. Now, 30 minutes. Oh, well, that's been done. What else could we do? Well, how about 20 minutes? All right. Or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. You can see, right, I couldn't find anything that was less than 10 minutes. Maybe there is. Maybe you could find it. But you get the idea, right? And this is just, these are so easy to find, right? And there's multiple variations and different changes on this type of stuff. So all the sort of hooks out there exist. And you could go on places like Amazon, look at non-fiction books, not just the recipe niche, but lots of other areas as well. And you can collect brilliant hooks that you can use and draw inspiration from and rework for your own products. That's what makes it unique. So Jamie Oliver's book there, I don't know. I suspect he probably, he has consultants and food people who come up with, basically write his books, I suppose. Right, and his name goes on it and so on. And I'm sure there's some great recipes, right? I've got a couple of his books and they're very nice. But there's nothing revolutionary about it. He's not coming up with unique stuff, really. It's just a new recipe with a great hook, 5 ingredients. So that is one of the biggest takeaways that you can have, and you can apply this in any market. Let me just check in with you. Does that make sense so far? Let's take a look at the live chat. Let me know in the chat, please, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me go on and we'll expand this and have a look at an example from my business as well. Okay, so this is a picture of a load of DVDs that I did years ago, and they're all DVDs from a live event that I put on. I had it professionally filmed, and then I had loads of DVDs produced, and I made the mistake, I'm sort of glad I've done it, but I made the mistake of actually mailing them out myself. And it took forever. I'll never do it again. Absolutely. It's so time consuming, and doing the labels and all. Oh, it's terrible. So anyway, this is a photo of that process happening. But there was 10 sessions in these DVDs, right? So each box is a box of DVDs for each session, and there are 10 sessions. So you can probably see some of the titles. I gave a title to each session that we did. Here's a better look at them. So you've got things like Ultimate Niche Selection, Conversion Max, JV and Affiliate Magnet Method. So some of these are a bit dated now, right? It's a few years ago. I probably wouldn't select some of these again. But the point is that they've all got a hook. So what you can do is you can apply hooks and these unique angles, not just to the title of your product, like we just saw with the recipe books, but also you can label bits of content within your products as well. In this case, different modules. You can also do it if you come up with a little mini system. Let's say you're teaching how to brainstorm something, where you can introduce, let's say, a 3-step system and give it a name. Then it takes on its own identity. And this is the stuff of how you make stuff unique. All right. So that's a little example. Here's another one: positioning your content as intriguing, inspiring, and exciting. It also, this technique helps your customers remember stuff. If you just teach stuff very blandly, and it can have all great information in it, but it's just a fog in their mind. Whereas if you label things and give things names and hooks and point out the different angles, then it's easy to remember. All right. So you might have heard something like, in personal development, something like the Sedona method, which is very, very famous. Well, you might not even know what the Sedona method is, but you remember it because it's got that hook. So you can start to see how powerful this is. If that same technique, the Sedona method, and they didn't give it that name, it probably would have been forgotten long ago. But it's still around, it's still in people's minds because of that hook. So this is really, really important. So here are some example modules, let's say from a personal development course, right? This is theoretical, made up, right? These are ones that I've just made up to show you an example. And this is typically what you could do. So getting started, understanding self-doubt, finding a passion that suits you, etc. Well, none of that is very exciting. So what you can do is actually look at giving a hook to each of these module titles. Launchpad, self-doubt breakout, productivity for life, perfect passion, crafting confidence. Can you see some of these alliterate as well? So perfect passion, crafting confidence, those are alliterations. So these really become much, much more powerful. You can imagine standing in a bookstore, flicking through and looking at the different product titles. That gets people excited. Similarly, on a sales page, when you go through the modules that are in your course or in your report or whatever it is, when you've got titles like this, it's a magnet for more sales, and it differentiates you. No one else will have this unique recipe, only you. So it's essential. It doesn't matter how good your content is, it won't do anyone any good unless it's attractive and desirable from the outside. What I mean by outside is before people have bought it and consumed it. So you can have a brilliant product, but if you've got lousy marketing and it comes across as bland because you haven't got good titles, you haven't got any hooks, it doesn't appear that you've got a unique angle, even though you probably have, it just doesn't appear like that on the outside, then you're not going to get any downloads. No one will read it, no one will buy it. So this is so important. Create great products that really help people, but you've got to have great marketing, some smart marketing to get it into people's hands. And it's not that difficult. We've just done a very brief kind of overview, there are lots of other techniques like this along similar lines. When you learn them, you can start plugging these in, and you start creating really unique, great products that become very highly desirable. The holy grail is irresistible, right? I'm not sure anyone ever gets there. I'm not sure I ever have, or maybe I won't ever. But that's the end goal that you're kind of aiming for. You're always shooting for, to be irresistible. So when people turn up and they see it, and they just see that your name or what you've got, they just think, wow, I just want this. That's where you're trying to get to. And this stuff, if you do it right, is really, really powerful. And finally, remember you're already unique, so be yourself. This is true, this is applicable rather, if you have a personality-based business. So like my business, where I'm the front of it. So this is not a products business. I'm not anonymous behind the scenes. I'm at the forefront, teaching and producing content and so on. So people get hung up about this and think their voice sounds terrible when they record it on an interview. They think their face looks awful when they're on video. They think all sorts of things. That's totally natural. The first time I started recording my voice, I thought it was awful as well, and couldn't listen back to it and so on. And after a while, you just get used to it. And as your confidence builds, you start to not care. Right, so it doesn't matter what you think, or if someone doesn't like it. It doesn't matter. No, not everyone's going to like it anyway. So you're just going after the crowd that do like it. So developing confidence in this area that you are unique already, and you don't need to manufacture a new personality. Just be yourself. That is one of the most liberating things you can do, and it's absolutely true for everyone. I don't care how bad you think your voice sounds, for example. All right, you are unique, so just stick with it and produce great stuff. Use some of the hooks and the angles to make yourself unique, and you'll be fine. So that's some of the lowest hanging fruit there in how to stand out in a crowded market. There's a lot more. We could really spend a whole day on this, because there's lots of other things, but that is, sometimes it's good just to have the some of the main fundamental principles, and that will get you most of the way. Now, conduct experiments. This is something I wanted to finish on today, because it goes back to when we talked about Facebook ads in the paid traffic in session 16. And what we talked about there was having the right mindset for paid advertising. A part of that was having a testing mindset. There's a great quote from Eric Ries, which is that if you can't fail, you can't learn. Failure is something that most people are afraid of. It's a negative word. As soon as you even say it, it feels, I'm not comfortable with that. But you don't need to have the word failure really in your vocabulary. The best thing to do is really just think of everything you do as just a series of experiments where you're finding out what doesn't work and what does work. And that's important, because there isn't a seamless, trouble-free, mistake-free path to your goal. There isn't. Whatever you're shooting for, there just isn't. You can't avoid trouble or challenges or mistakes. And you don't need to be afraid of them either, because everything you do is just a test to see what works and see what doesn't work. And if you go forward with that mindset and you've educated yourself, like through courses like this and other training that's around, then you'll have a much, much better chance as well. But then you're not afraid of things not working out or what might happen, because it's just a process. That's all it is. So you're just working the machine and you're finding out what works and what doesn't from your continued experiments. So I hope that makes sense. It's a big wrench mindset wise coming. If you've been employed, you've been in a job for ages, then that's a big change, because it's a different world when you work for yourself and you're running your own business. Whatever you do, I think, right? Whether it's online or offline, more conventional business, it's the same. And you need to make that mindset shift. It might not happen overnight, probably certainly won't, but it can be done over time. I did it. I'm completely comfortable mindset wise now in my business in terms of new projects and stuff. I don't have fear of failure or anything like that. I just do what I like, okay? And I know it's just experimenting and seeing what works. And the more you go along, the more knowledge and experience you get, and the better the odds get as you go along. So if you think about it like that, hopefully that will help you feel more relaxed, a bit more liberated, and enjoy everything a bit more, rather than feeling uptight about, what hypothetical problems might arise in the future. So that is pretty much it for this session. I hope you found that useful. It's been great spending time with you again. I'd really appreciate it if you like the video here on YouTube. That would be great. Do subscribe, click the bell icon to get notifications. Don't forget that we've got a full resource page where you can watch all the previous episodes of this. There's quite a few now. It's really quite building up. And we will be back as well on Thursday, a couple of days' time, with more stuff. In the meantime, do check out the Facebook group if you haven't already. I posted a video. I've been doing videos filmed on my phone, live streams every Friday, just very short 5-10 minute videos. Last Friday, just before the weekend, I talked about refunds. We had a question in that was posted in the group, and I share with you what my average refund rate is, how to think about refunds, what to do if you get difficult customers, that kind of thing. And that's all there. You can just, as soon as you go in the Facebook group, you'll be able to watch that video and see me explain all that. There is an approval process, basically just because I want to obviously keep spammers out and robots and things like that. So if you're not already a member, just click join, and then you'll get approved and you can join us. It'd be great to see you there in the Facebook group. Do post other questions, any suggestions. I'd love to have more feedback from you. There's a lot of people that are watching the recordings, going to the page. I can see that. And have joined the Facebook group, but they're silent. So I'd love more people to speak out and just ask questions and so on, because that just helps with our overall momentum. Anyway, take care for now. We'll talk in a couple of days, and whatever you're doing, have a great day. All right, take care for now. Bye.